right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Gearheads and Guardians. You're with yours truly, Natural here tonight, and flying solo tonight. Um, Chuck had some business to take care of, so we're going to go ahead and just roll single tonight. One of the cool things about um, sometimes being by yourself is you get to kind of learn how to talk to yourself, thinking that all of y'all listening out there. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun, a little bit different tonight, and I hope that everybody's here to have a good time. So uh, tonight it's we have weekly. Normally, Chuck and I have we talk about topics and what we're going to talk about because there's really so much going on that uh, it's kind of hard to keep up with things, especially how busy we are and how busy um, we are in our lives and what have you not. So one of the things that we try as individuals to do is to come up with topics that if for some reason um, one of us is not here or we don't have time to think about it together, we can just ad lib some stuff. So tonight we're gonna give a little bit of a race update from last weekend. It was a good night of racing, very interesting surface that the guys were on, and we're going to talk about if you've seen the title, beans, bullets, and bikes. We're going to do a little bit of talking about self-defense rounds compared to hollow point rounds. They're kind of similar, but they're kind of different, and then we're going to talk about motorcycles. Yeah, a new topic tonight, motorcycles. And I'll tell you why here shortly. So first, I want to start off with a little bit of a racing update from last weekend. We I-37 Speedway. Landon was out there. I was pitting for Landon, and it was an interesting night. It was another night where the surface was unpredictable. The moisture was definitely in the air more than it has been in a sense because of all the dry heat that we've had, and the preparation that they put into the track was a lot of water, and it didn't go away as fast as we thought it was going to go away. The track actually stayed pretty tacky. So Landon um, did really well. I think he finished sixth in the feature. The track was different from what it has been for the longest time, right? So we made a swing at the car, got out of our comfort zone a little bit, and actually made it a lot better. So the night was overall a success, especially when you're not used to doing something to your car, or you're not used to uh, uh, going to another form of a change that you can make, right? So a lot of times um, when you're local to one track, you get used to how the track is, right? There's just certain things that the track's going to do. You know how the weather's going to be. You know how um, predictable, if you will, things are in the sense. And when that changes, and you're not used to how it changes, or to the extent that it changes, and it puts you out of your comfort zone, and you're like, what do I do, right? I don't want to do that because I'm not comfortable with making that change. So if we stay right here, um let's try that. So we did, and in the heat race, the car was still a little too tight. The track had a lot of moisture in it, probably the most moisture we've seen since the beginning of the season in April. And so on these cars, especially late models, not only do we have shop change that we can make, spring rate change that we can make, um, we have bars in the back of these cars. There's actually 4 bars, and each bar does something different to the car. And um, when you start out in these cars, you want everything neutral, where the bars are in. There's holes on all the brackets, and you want to be in the middle hole, and that's neutral. And we decided to, after racking our brains on how to free the car up and get the car to be able to turn on a track on a tacky surface, I said, listen, man, I said, let's step out of the comfort zone. Let's make a bar change. I know we don't do it often, and see what happens. And we made a bar change. and the car drove a lot better, which is good. We learned. He learned how it felt to make a bar change. I change bars on my car on an open motor car. You kind of have to change bars, take a little bit bigger swings at it than you do a crate car in the sense because of the power. Um, but we took a swing at it, and he did very well. So finished sixth. Tacky track, fast track. It was definitely a track that if you had a big motor, it was a hammer down. You were going to definitely have a hand of an advantage to it. So the Iceman did great. Cars in one piece. We always say if you put it on the trailer in one piece, it was a great night, and that's what we did. So that was a quick racing update for here locally at I-37 Speedway. Back home in Vado, Bryce moved up a class with his car and started seventh. He finished eighth in the USRA stock car class, which is where he had begun. But that's where a lot of talent. That's where the experienced drivers are in the stock car world, if you will. They are USRA. They're bigger motors. Cars are faster, but he held his own, and very proud of him for kind of starting where he finished. And the car looked really fast. Still some changes that we have to do to get the car to rotate and work for him, but really impressed with him. So Bryce knocked out an eighth place finish out of I think 14 cars started there. So that was really awesome. So that's the racing update that we have for you locally. So I want to move into something new. We always talk about Zalease, and we always talk about the products. The new one that's out is Malaki, and it's the fruit for gastro health. And be sure you check that out, Zalease.com /RL4T. That puts you on our landing page for Zalease.com. And that helps out the charity and for us to be able to help and give back to our veterans. So I want to talk about and what we were going to talk about, but I want to talk about self-defense rounds compared to hollow point rounds. So we all know, and if you're into weapons, we all know that there are different rounds for different purposes, right? So you have your ballpoint, your ball rounds that are mainly target practice, right? You can use them for self-defense. I mean, a bullet is a bullet. It's going to do what it's aimed to do, obviously. But when you talk about impact, and when you talk about getting the most bang for your buck, if you will, especially in today's economy. I mean, ammo is very, very expensive. I carry a 10 mil, and it is almost $1 a round. It's crazy how expensive ammo is at this time. So, but when you talk about self-defense rounds, say the size of your house, right? If you got a small house, you don't want to, and you have a larger caliber weapon, you don't want a projectile that is going to go through whoever it is that you're aiming at and then into a wall or whatever. Even though when it comes to when it comes to that time, you really don't care about any other collateral damage as long as it's nobody else. But you kind of have to think about what you're using it for. How big is your area? Like, how big is your house? If you're outside, right? How big is the area that's outside your house that if someone were to intrude, what is the collateral area behind that, right? And so we get into talking about the different kinds of rounds and what we use them for. Ball rounds mushroom, right? So let's talk about your target rounds or your ball rounds, right? The full metal jacket ball round, and what it does is it's designed that when it hits, it mushrooms up, right? And if you have a high caliber weapon, that round can actually go what we call through and through, okay? And not really the size of the cavity or the damage that happens is really how much mushrooming that round does when it impacts the human body. And when it hits the body, it's not really a lot unless it hits a bone, right? But it's not really a lot, right? So a 9 mil will definitely do damage. A 22 will do damage, right? Way back in the days when you talk mobs and things like that, 22 rounds were some of the choice rounds because they're very, very small, and they you can't, if they enter the body, they're not going to go out the other side. So they're going to kind of bounce around and do damage, right? So that's the thing about a 22 on the human body. But when you're talking 9 mil, 40 ACP, 45, 38 and what have you not, velocity and the type of round that it is, you kind of have to take into consideration. Ball rounds mushroom, right? So they hit and they kind of just mushroom out just a little bit. Unless they hit something solid, they're really it's only going to make as big of a cavity as that caliber is, right? So with that, come the self-defense rounds. Self-defense rounds are similar to a hollow point, except for a hollow point does not have ridges to allow it to open up more. Okay, a hollow point it's a hollow point, and it's it is exactly what it is. The depth of the round, besides just a small space, is hollow. And the reason why we use hollow rounds is that when it hits, whatever it hits, it has a more flaring tactic to it. It flares out a little bit more, and it actually makes a larger cavity. With that said, depending on how close you are, it might not do as much damage if you have a higher velocity round, like more powder or a more grain, as we call it, right? So that's a hollow point round. Very deadly. A lot of self-defense, scenarios. People use the hollow point round because of the way they open up and make a cavity. And then you have the self-defense round. The self-defense round is not a high grain round. Around the 120, I think minor 180s, right? It's not a lot. And then it has ridges on it, right? If you look at a self-defense round, it's got little cuts in it. Okay. And what that does is it allows the bullet to open at less velocity. Okay. You don't need to have as powerful of a grain behind it for it to open up and do a cavity, make a cavity inside of whatever it is that you're shooting at. So it slows down a lot faster than a hollow point would. So when you're picking your self-defense rounds, and you're picking how you want to protect your house, right, or protect your area that you're in, take all that into consideration, right? Take in consideration what exactly is my area that I'm working with, the room or the size of the area that I'm in, whether you're outside. See, outside, a self-defense round would not be good for anything, farther than, 10, 15, 20 yards, right? Because the grain is not as high, right? Not as high velocity. And you got to remember too, hollow points capture air, so they're not going to be as fast either, and they're not going to be as effective long ways, or down range, long ways away. So those are the things that Chuck and I wanted to talk about tonight. We were thinking about it. We're like, I told him, I said, Rocco, I have self-defense rounds. I've never shot hollow point, and we always use ball rounds for targeting. Let's talk about that for a minute. And so we did, and we picked on that. Ball and target rounds, which would be your balls, are, yes, for reach out to touch somebody. Okay, you can use them in all scenarios, right? Full metal jackets, they mushroom up just a little bit, but if you're too close to the person, they can go through. Okay, and survivability from a 9 mil round is a lot higher than if you had a higher caliber, which makes sense. But depending on the type of round, even if you were close to somebody and you miss vitals, say someone is coming at you and you happen to fire and you're not accurate on your center mass, and you go through a shoulder or something, the survivability is pretty high from something like that. So if you go to a hollow point or a self-defense round and you happen to miss a vital area, but you still hit the body, you're going to have a bigger cavity where, bleeding out is going to be as such. In hunting, especially bow, right? I used to hunt and shoot bow, and it's the same with crossbow, kind of the same concept. Is the broadhead. Okay. Now, if you don't have guns in your house and you are an archer and you like to have a crossbow as your self-defense weapon, the concept is the same when you have a broadhead. You want to find a broadhead that's going to have a good cavity uh, circumference to it. Okay. Um, and that's kind of where you have to think about your surroundings. Now, where I live, I'm not going to pull out a crossbow. I mean, it's just too much. It's too big to do what I need to do. But say, for instance, you are out in a neighborhood, right? You live in like a cul-de-sac or something like that, and you know that if something were to happen in the confined areas, you got a house to your right, a house to your left, a house to behind you. You have to think about that collateral damage when you talk about rounds. Bows and arrows are the same, but you also have to think about your bow and the crossbow. How much foot poundage am I using, right? Um, so all of those things, when it comes to self-defense, you have to keep in mind. Okay, pick the right thing for you. Pick the right round for what you want to use it for. I use a self-defense round in my 10 mil, and the reason why I do is because I have a lot of velocity. It's a large weapon. Okay, I do it because of the size of my hands. It's easy for me to use. It gives me some balance to when I'm shooting it at the range. It's the perfect weapon for me, right? I am a big guy, and so it suits me. But that doesn't mean that I go in there with a 200 grain ball and use that as self-defense round, because not only is it going to go through whatever it is I'm shooting at, it's going to keep on going until there's enough walls or whatever in to stop it, and that's not really what you want. So I put a self-defense round in, is what I carry with all the time, because a lot of velocity with the round, the type of round it is. Um, or with the type of weapon that it is, pull the grain back a little bit, and I'm able to put a large cavity into whatever I'm shooting, and I don't have to worry as much about um, what's behind it. And another thing too, you have to remember is know the distance of what we call in the military, or if you've been shooting a long time, especially in the military, we call it effective range, right? You have your effective range, and then you have your range, right? The weapon will shoot this far, but what's your maximum effective range? Obviously, for a handgun, it's going to be shorter than a long barrel, but um, there are some handguns like the 10 mil, right, that actually can reach out a lot further than your average 9 mil 43 or your 17 or what have you not, right? Because the way the bullet is made, right? How much powder is in there and how long it is. So I use a self-defense round, and that allows me to have that punch right now. It opens up. I don't have a lot of grain to it because I don't need a lot of grain. I know that because it is a longer barrel in the sense, it is allowing it to be able to fly farther. So you keep all that in mind and pick the right round for you. And mind you, caliber, in my opinion, a caliber that is a 9 mil self-defense round, like what my girlfriend uses, will have the same effect as a 10 mil self-defense round that like I have. The only difference is how far out I can reach compared to what she can. For her, it's going to be right very close, and as long as she hits the target, and it's whatever's coming at her, it doesn't have to be dead on. As long as you hit the target and it goes down, that's what we're looking for, right? So self-defense round, hollow point round, ball round, right? Pick your right one for your um, for your weapon and your scenario. I have two. I got the self-defense round. I got the ball round. So that's one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight. We hadn't talked about the difference between the two and why we pick. Why you should pick a different type of round. I would not have a high velocity round. Um, uh, and I forgot the name of them, right? But there's rounds out there that are like super high velocity. They got, I mean, they're just, they can reach out and touch someone. There's no need for all that, right? I'm not, I only carry for the 300, the 300 foot, the castle doctrine that we have here. If I can reach that and handle what I need to handle, then I'm good to go. So again, hollow point rounds, same, the is the same as a self-defense round, except for self-defense round is designed to actually um, break open at a slower speed. So keep that in mind. Um, if there's any questions that guys have about that, go ahead and email us at Gearheads and Guardians, or go to USCCA. USCCA has some great information about that. Get there if you sign up for their program and become a member. They send you a concealed carry magazine every month and has great information on it in there about topics like this. Training with different types of rounds. Believe it or not, you have to train differently for different types of rounds, right? Um, if you have a laser and a hollow point, or if you have a laser and a ball, if you have an optics in a ball, or vice versa, you learn how to shoot those different rounds in different scenarios, right? So great material with the USCCA. Go ahead and I think you can go on their website and even read some of their stuff. It's really awesome. So that's the difference between ball, hollow point, and self-defense round, right? So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about um, Zalise and what we've got going on next month, September 28th, from 11 to 4. We are going to be at the Blue Bonnet Palace in Selma, Texas, right? We're going to have the slingshots out there. We're going to put a flyer out on all of our social media. Um, it's going to be, uh, hey, it's good to see you there. It's good to see you there, Calib- uh, Calibration. It's awesome. I'm flying solo tonight, so bear with me. But if you got any questions, let me know. I'm here with you. Um, so next month, a charity event for Relief for Troops, and what we're doing is we're raising money so we can buy product, ultra product, and we can hand it out for uh, to veterans that can't afford it. And something else that I had started a long time ago, and I didn't really have a chance to follow through because COVID hit and what have you not. But we have um, pet CBD. Okay, I'm sure you've seen it, but I'm going to try to incorporate in if you go to relieffortroops.org, you might see it soon. But I'm going to incorporate pet CBD and veterans with the service dogs, right? Something that I've been thinking about for a long time. And we have dogs that do everything. We got dogs that do bombs, we got dogs that do cadavers, we got dogs that do drugs, we got dogs that do that are just service animals, right? And they need care too. And it- I didn't know how I was going to incorporate that in what we did, but it dawned on me some time ago that a lot of veterans have service animals for PTSD. And how cool would it be to mesh animal care into what we do for the veterans? So be on the lookout for that. Um, and we are going to talk more about that at the event September 28th about doing uh, animal CBD and how we're going to tie it together with Relief for Troops. Something I thought of. It and I hadn't really talked about it, but I think it's very important that we also take care of the veterans and their service animals if they have one. So September 28th, Blue Bonnet Palace, Selma, Texas. We're gonna have the slingshots out there. Uh, it's, if you've never ridden in a slingshot, first of all, slingshots is one of the most fun rides outside of a roller coaster, right? Besides being on a motorcycle or a jet ski, which is similar, a slingshot is really um, that three-wheel sports car, right? Um, and you don't see them a lot, even though they're abundant. There's a lot of people out there that have them. They're all weather. Mine sits outside, which is kind of harsh. I have a cover for it. I just haven't been able to make it fit because I have a spoiler on mine. But um, there's people put lights on them. The guys that the crew that I'm a part of and that me and my girlfriend are part of that we roll around here in San Antonio, they do lights. They have real cool light shows, sound systems. But if you've never ridden in a slingshot, it's a different experience. So come out to the Bluebonnet Palace in Selma, Texas. Relief for Troops charity event. We're going to have vendors out there. There's going to be alcohol vendors out there. There's going to be vendors of just people from the surrounding area that might want to sell their product or what have you not. There's going to be music provided by the venue there. Jake, I want to talk about the Bluebonnet Palace, folks, real quick. It is a veteran-owned venue. And what's really cool about that is when we approached them about doing an event, Jake, who's a former Marine, said, absolutely, whatever you need, we got it. I mean, it wasn't even a question. He says, whatever you need, we got it. Some really, really cool people over there, veteran owned. So they're going to allow us to have that out there. It's 11 to 4. If it happens to rain, we are going to do it. We do have it reserved for Sunday also. So if it rains on Saturday, and we're clear on Sunday, we will move it to Sunday. So that's at least we have what they call a rain check in place. So come on out, right? Come on out, take a look at the slingshots, meet the crew. We're going to have right now, we're going to have Landon's race car. Iceman's going to have his late model out there, take pictures with them, get some autographs with him. He's currently second in points at the local track. So that's really a big deal, right? It's really, really difficult. This class is very, very difficult because the cars are so fast. There's so much talent. But he'll be out there with his late model. Might have my late model out there. I don't know yet. We're still waiting for the engine from the engine shop. Take a ride in a slingshot for charity, $5 a ride. Take pictures with the crew, come out and meet the guys. And if my hopes are up, we're going to have a whole bunch of different type of slingshots out there. Come out and have fun and get yourself a ride. We're going to have raffles from Detail Garage. If anybody knows about Detail Garage, Steve and those guys over Northwest San Antonio have the chemical brothers or the chemical guys products. That's is all I use on all my toys. Great guys out there. They're going to give us some cleaning baskets to hand out by raffle. We're going to have some raffle for Zalees product that we're going to be able to give away. We're going to have some freebies just walking around giving you some samples to try of all the products, of some of the products that we have there on Zalees. So it's going to be a good time. It's a veterans charity. We got some other surprises going on there. I don't want to spoil it. So come out and see us. September 28th, 11 to 4, Bluebonnet Palace in Selma, Texas. So speaking of slingshots, I'm gonna go back in history a little bit and tell you a little bit about my family growing up. My dad and my grandfathers were all Shriners, and my dad was part of a motor corps, which was where the Shriners got on Harleys and they did parades and figure eights and they did some really cool stuff, right? The Harley Davidson Motor Corps there in Cedar Falls and Spencer, Iowa. So since then, I've always wanted a Harley Davidson, right? In 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. I was part of a motorcycle club, Number One Stunners, and I had bought an '05 Honda CBR RR Ghost Edition. And I had an awesome time on it. Nice bike, very well balanced. You can lean it. You can, I never did any crazy stuff because I wasn't into that, but the bike handled very, very well. It's very rider friendly compared to a Gixxer, which is a Gixxer is about a 900,000 pound bike, 1,350 plus cc's. I mean, it's but you have to know how to ride those bikes, especially when you're talking turns and doing things, because they're very, very heavy, and they're very, very fast, lots of power. So I sold the bike, and from that point on, even having a slingshot, I have always wanted a Harley Davidson. And for years, when you talk about Harley Davidson and having baggers and things like that, I always got told that it looked like an old people's bike. Only old people ride that, and it's not so much true anymore, because the way Harley has styled their motorcycles, being really unchanged from the early days, right? So I just picked up, I want to say a couple months ago. It's been over a month now or so. A 2021 Electra Glide Standard, right? Electra Black, no bells and whistles, but it is a touring bike. It's got the Batwing for fairing on it. It's got bags, but it's got no stereo, and it's just all bike, right? And I did a lot of research to understand what's the difference between that and a street glide. And I found out some interesting facts. I got real bike smart since having this thing, because obviously when you buy something, then you do research, because you want to do upgrades, you want to do all this cool stuff to it, and you're like, okay, what's the difference between an FLHT and FLX and all that jazz stuff? And so I found some history on the Electra Glide itself. Before the Electra Glide came out, all Harley Davidson motorcycles were kickstart, right? You got the pedal on the right hand side, and you just kick away. You kick away. You kick away until it fires off, right? And then came the Electra Glide. And Electra, and I never understood what they said by Electra. I thought it was just a name, like the Street Bob is just a name, but it's not. It's actually the style of the bike. You got your bobber style bikes, small gas tank, a little bit bigger front wheel, single seat. It's a shorter bike, kind of light. Um, and then you got your cafe racer type style. So the Electra Glide the Electra stands for the first electrical start Harley Davidson. And that was, don't get me lying, I want to say that was 60s, 70s, right? And they made the Electra Glide all the way up to 2006. They stopped making the Electra Glide in 2006 because they redesigned it and came out with the Street Glide. And the Street Glide is a bagger. It's a little bit longer, but it had it had bells and whistles on it. It's got the chrome, or it's got the new style front wheel. It's got stereo system, different type mirrors, but you could also do a lot of factory upgrades by picking and choosing, like ordering a car. And they stopped making the Electra Glide at that point. And over time, you would spend, on an Electra Glide, you would spend so much money, and then you want to customize it, right? Because they're between $20,000 and $30,000 bikes, right? And you're like, well, what if I want to do this upgrade because I don't like the way that looks, but I've already paid for it? So not only are you paying for all that, and then you got to take it off, and then you got to buy more just to do your upgrades, right? And there were a lot of riders that were complaining about it. There really was. I read a lot of forums where like, it just, street glides are cool if you don't want to do anything to them, because they already come with this, and then you have to go look at the different dealerships to find the street glide that you want, because this one only has this, but this one only comes in this color. This one only comes in burnt orange in October, and blah, 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 blah. So Harley Davidson said, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to, in 2019, they said, we're going to go back to the Electra Glide. We're going to make the Electra Glide. We're going to make it in one color. It's not going to have anything on it. It's not going to have external speakers. It's not going to have stereo. It's not going to come with a second, it's not going to come what they call a 2-up seat. It's not going to have a sissy bar. It'll have the brackets, but it is going to be bare bones, single rider, bags. That's it. And I was looking at a bike. Now, I'll tell you what kicked off me wanting to buy a Harley Davidson. I'm not going to lie. My girlfriend told me, you really need to watch Sons of Anarchy, right? And I couldn't get in the acting. I just couldn't get into the acting of Sons of Anarchy in the beginning, right? But then as I watched it, I saw the Street Glide pop in and out every now and then, and it just wanting to feel the open air again, and wanting to uh, go and actually have a bike that I've always dreamed of having. Um, I decided to go get one, and got a great deal on it. Javelina Harley Davidson squared me away. Go see Harley Pete. He'll take care of you. The guy's up there. And the the biggest reason for it over a sport bike is my back, right? I couldn't take the riding over the years, leaning over a tank, and it was fun while I was young, but as I got older and with my back injuries and everything, I needed to be comfortable. And when I went to go look at the Street Glides, they're expensive. And I was like, man, this sucks, because you know, I don't want to spend, $45,000, 30,000, $25,000 on a motorcycle. I just want to rebuild some credit and go ride. And they said, we have an Electric Glide Standard. It is the beginner touring bike, even though I don't really wasn't looking for a beginner bike, but it's bare bones. And a lot of guys like it because they can do their own upgrades. You're not taking anything off that you've paid money for, because there's nothing there. So I went out and got a bike. And I will tell you that it has been all the fun that I thought it was going to be. So if you're into motorcycles, which is getting to my point about why I want to talk to them, there's two motorcycles that I, have a reputation of being the motorcycles, right? Indian and Harley Davidson. Now, my Uncle Ken, and I hope he's watching down on me, because I finally have a bike now. My Uncle Ken loved Indians, and he restored Indians, um, the old Indians. And I did a lot of research on the Indian motorcycle. They have a lot of creature comforts that Harleys don't, at a fraction of the cost. And so uh, I had thought about it, and I don't know why I didn't want to go look at Indians. I like the long front wheel fender, how it comes down and it sweeps back. It's total Indian, um how can I say it, style. It's just what it's known for. Um but I also found out that Indian was bought out by Polaris, and I was like, what, I really want to stay authentic. It's kind of like animals, right? You don't want to, if you have the ability, or if you're picky on animals like I am, purebreds are purebreds. That's just how some of us think like that. So we went to go look at the Harleys, and I found it, and I didn't think I would enjoy it this much. This is fun. Um, it's a different experience. So uh, if you're thinking about it, um, about buying a Harley Davidson, um, I've learned that a lot of people that haven't ridden bikes before want to get on a bike that they think looks cool. And it may not be a bike that they can handle. And I've I've seen a lot of videos where people go and buy Harley Davidsons, and they get a bagger like the Electric Glide or the Street Glide or what have you not. They're 800, 900 pound bikes, and they've never ridden a bike before. And if you ever laid down a motorcycle, if you have a bike and you've ever laid a motorcycle down, it's not easy picking up an 800-pound bike. You know, um, so talking about motorcycles, if you want a motorcycle and you've never ridden before, but you don't want a crotch rocket, because they can get a little, they're not very comfortable. They're comfortable, but they're not comfortable. Um, Go look at the smaller bikes at a dealership, i.e., Street Bob, Street Glide, or Dynaglide, the Lowrider, things, even the 883 or even a Sportster, right? Because they're smaller bikes. They don't have bags. They don't have a fairing, but they're lighter. They're about 500-600 pounds. They're easy to maneuver. They got plenty of power. Sportsters, oh yeah, I was just talking. Hey, there's Rocco. Um, Rocco had a Sportster, and so you got to think about what size of bike you want over the size of bike that you can actually handle. And so, um, if I could have go back years ago, if I could have gone and done it again, I'd have probably gotten a Harley back when I bought my first bike, because that would have given me um, the opportunity to ride a lot more on this style of bike, and probably I wouldn't have gotten rid of it because I'd have been comfortable, right? Even on the Sportsters, and Rocco can tell you, because he rode Sportsters. He's in the chat. They're still comfortable bikes, even though they're not like a touring bike where the seat is kind of saddled, right? And you know, um, they're not as heavy, so they're heavier, so they're nice and smooth. But Sportsters are very comfortable bikes too. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Um, so a touring bike is exactly what that is. A touring bike is designed for you to go on rides. Heavy power. The suspension is designed to ride, even though they got cool new suspensions now. Um, Especially when you have two people on it. Uh, those are designed like what I had, the bike that I have. They're designed to go on the road, right? If you're going to be in town, even though, I mean, you can ride a Sportster, a little bit on the road, but they're not really. There's no wind deflection. There's no, like he says, sporty. They're great in town, but over the road not so much, because they're just not comfortable, right? Now, back in the day, before they had the baggers, all the bike clubs that you see out there, you got the Hells Angels, and you got the Banditos, and you got, all these bike clubs that back in the day when they first started riding, that's all they had were choppers and Sportsters, right? There was nothing there. But when the touring bikes came out, um, that's where you see the big bags and the touring packs and the two people with the intercoms and things like that. Those are the Cadillacs for over the road. What I like about my bike is I can ride it in town like a Sportster, but it's comfortable enough to get on the road and go ride. It's got cruise control, which is really cool. Um, it's very stable in the wind. You have the road glide, which has a fixed fairing where the handlebars turn, but the fairing doesn't. A lot of people like that bike, because you don't have the weight of the fairing in the wind turning with you. And if you're a smaller person, that knows how to ride and has a touring bike, a road glide would probably work for you if you don't like fighting in the wind, and you're not as strong as you would like to be to handle a bat wing in the wind. So pick a start small. If you've never ridden before, start small, right? They have a lot of Harleys that are small. Again, Sportsters and 883s are perfect beginner bikes, for Harley in the Harley Davidson brand. Um, if you're a smaller person, right? If you're a larger person learning how to ride, you may outgrow the bike very, very quickly, which is okay. Learn what we call slow speed tactics and skills before you get into a big bike. I'm still working on mine. Um, and you get better every day, but as you learn and you outgrow your bike and you get to a point where you can handle a touring bike just like you do your smaller bikes, you're going to be just fine. So, um, I really wanted to. I've had it for some time, and I'd said, you know what, Chuck, we also were Harley people, um, and we should talk about bikes, and why you should pick one over the other. And so that's what I did tonight. It's funny um, that he talks about sporties, right? Sportsters, and I'm going to say this, they have large cubic inch motors on a small frame. That's why they call them sportsters, right? They're designed to um, they're like your how can I say it? They're like your Z28s for in town, but you can't drive them cross country because they're not very comfortable, right? They're just fast right now, and they're loud, right? Touring bikes are just what they are. So get you a Sportster, get you an 883, um, get out there and learn. 450-pound bike is not as bad as a 900-pound bike if you drop it. So I wanted to kind of touch on that tonight, kind of bring a new topic to what we're talking about weekly, just adding to our repertoire of topics. So we talked about uh, self-defense rounds compared to hollow point rounds, right? Remember your area, remember what you use them for, what type of weapon you have, and be cognizant of your collateral damage. Oh, real quick, Mike. Hey, Mike, good seeing you, buddy. I'll take a Road King any day. You know, Road King is a really nice bike. Um, the they're very comfortable, and they call them Road Kings because that's what they are. But they're not a bagger unless you put the bags on. Um, but the Road King is a very well-known used bike for across long roads. And I like how they have the two driving lights next to the headlamp. Those are really cool. I've always liked those. So and I don't know. I think you can put a Batwing fairing. I'm a big fan of the Batwing fairing, right? And Mike has an Indian Super Chief. See, I was talking about Indian, a little while ago that there are really two only true kings of the motorcycle world, in my opinion, and that is the Harley and the Indian. Indian, um, the iconic front fender and the way it flares back underneath the bike, absolute amazing look. Absolute amazing look. And price wise, right? When you talk about price, Indian over Harley, Indian is a little more bang for the buck, right? And I will say that, and especially in modern days, if you get the Super Chief or the I believe it's a Road Chief, right? Might correct me if I'm wrong, but it's one they're touring ones where the touring pack and the second passenger stuff is fixed on it's fixed. You can't remove it, I don't believe, but they have heated seats. They come with heated uh handlebars, heated thing. Just the passenger has a lot of heated stuff, and then they have the sound systems, the intercom plugins and everything back there, but they're not as expensive as a Harley Davidson. So very powerful bikes. They're beautiful bikes. um, so yes, the Indian, the Indian Super Chief and the road, I want to say it's the Roadmaster. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, buddy. um uh but yeah, that's my take on the Indian. Like I said, my uncle restored Indians from like 50s style Indians. It was amazing. So going back, we talked defense rounds, um versus hollow point rounds versus ball rounds. um Remember, September 28th, we have a charity event um, coming up here at the Bluebonnet Palace for our veterans. If you come out and see us and you don't have a slingshot, but you want to ride your motorcycle, bring your bike. It's not just for slingshots, but we're using the slingshots as the centerpiece. Um, the new Zalease product, Malaki, Amalaki. I'm gonna say it right one of these days. Um, so no incendiaries. It's funny, Mike, that you even mentioned incendiaries. When I had my property out here, um, out of the blue, because it was 10 acres. So out here in the state of Texas, if you own 10 acres, you can have a gun. You can shoot on your property as long as you don't shoot, you know, towards your neighbor's house, right? Um, and one day I'm out in the garage and I heard this huge boom, just boom. I'm like, man, what's going on here? Because it was a huge explosive sound. And my neighbor was shooting at tannerite. And I didn't even know what tannerite was at the time. It's crazy. And so so my girlfriend says I bet you your girlfriend can't wait to ride the Harley. Let me say that. So tannerite rounds, incendiary rounds, I would not say incendiary rounds for self-defense unless you want to burn everything to the ground, or you're just in that mindset where you know you don't really care and you just got more than one person and they're probably zombies or the apocalypse is happening, then yeah, I'd use an incendiary round. So Mike, or tannerite, what you do is you put tannerite around, and if someone gets close to it, just go ahead and shoot at it and see what happens. um, Going back to the bike, yes, my girlfriend Jennifer says, I bet your girlfriend can't wait to ride the Harley. One of the coolest things that I have seen, um, that is different than riding in the slingshot, right? Slingshot side by side. One of the things that I love seeing is couples riding on the Harleys. And I am working on getting to a point where I can get a seat, and we're trying to decide if we're going to put a tour pack on or if we're going to just use the sissy bar that we have. But I'm really excited to take the girlfriend for a ride. I think that's a little more, I want to say sentimental. I think sentimental would be the word, because you get to ride together in tandem. You're together. You're on this thing. You're in the wind. Um, and riding a slingshot is more of like, well, I probably shouldn't be driving a slingshot. I got a concussion after my first wreck last 2 years ago. I got into a pretty bad wreck at the track, and I had a concussion. And we get up the next morning and we go have breakfast in a slingshot, and she gave me an Excedrin, for my headache, and it had a lot of caffeine in it, and I'm just wild. I drive the slingshot like wild, but um, it's sitting side by side in a car is not the same as sitting on a bike, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited to ride the bike with her, and like the tour pack, like Mike said, the tour pack thing is kind of, the girlfriend, Jennifer said, "Hey, but it looks old. It looks like you're old people." Because I was the CVO that I was looking at had a tour pack, and it was all a kit, right? Obviously, it had the metallic paint job and the flames and everything, but it's all, one kit. And the tour pack is actually a little bit deeper, right? So it does look pretty big back there. Um, but they make this thing called a razor tour pack, and it's thin. It's thin enough to put a helmet in. It's smaller, but it still has the armrest and the backrest, on it. And we're gonna try the sissy bar. Yes, exactly. It is more comfortable, and I think that too. But my girlfriend's only 5'1", I think 5'1 3/4. I'll give her that 3/4 of an inch. So she's not very big. However, when you go on longer rides, you want to be able to sit back a little bit and just relax, right? Just and not be so, you know, wrapped around and holding on. You want to be able to sit back, and it's you on a longer ride, you might not be able to do that on a sissy seat. So I think I see myself getting a tour pack for that too. Plus, it's kind of nice that when you got the bags full and you need a place to put your helmets or whatever, it's nice to have the tour pack. So but yes, so going back over, amalaki is the fruit for that Zalice just came out with. It's go to Zalice, shopzalice.com / or / RL4T. That puts you on our landing page. Amalaki is very good for gut health. It's a fruit. I don't know too much about it. I just know that being able to get it, this is first here in the United States, because it is a fruit that's found across the pond. And I'm really excited. Hopefully, I get to try it here in the near future. Ultracell Vibe, right? Again, if you have stress, if you have anxiety, and those are really your biggest ailments, a little bit of PTSD or what have you not. Ultracell helped me out a lot, especially with dealing with my cancer. But stress and anxiety, um, the Vibe is very, 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 very good stuff. It's very powerful on helping your brain calm down, right? Had some things go on this past couple weeks where I was pretty fired up, and I have to say that even as fired up as I got, I probably would have got worse had I not been on Vibe. So really think into that. Um, Mike, what I want wanting to give to be able to hop on a bike again and just go. You know what, Mike? Never say never, right? We're always trying to get well, and you never know. Maybe in time you'll be able to hop back on a scooter. And Rocco says the same thing, right? After his accident, he hasn't been on a bike since either. It'd be pretty cool to see you guys get out there and start riding again, even if it was just for a short duration of a time to start. I hope you can get back on a bike. So, um, and then we talked about a little bit of racing. Our next race is not until, let me look it up real quick. Vado has a 2-day show coming up this weekend, sprint cars and late models. Go to racingdirt.com if you want to watch some good 305 and the late models, the Southwest late models, which is the group that I race with when I go out there. Um, and I know uh, if you're a racing fan, right, and you're a person that likes just dirt track racing or any type of form of racing, right? But you like certain tracks, right? You have your favorite tracks. We do it in NASCAR, we do it in the dirt world. But take the opportunity, if you're a racing fan, go to racingdirt.com, buy a night, what they call a pit pass, at Vado Speedway Park there in Vado, New Mexico, this coming weekend. It's a 2-day show. Sprint car, 305 sprint cars and late models, right? Oh, I'm sorry, 360 wing sprint cars and late models. And look at the venue and the track, right? If you're a fan of tracks and you're interested on how different tracks are built, Royal Jones has built an absolute phenomenal facility out there. Over $8 million facility to go race at. And so go watch them if you want to watch some good racing. But I-37 Speedway, our next race is not until... let me get it here real quick. Because I know there's people that watch the replays. And I want to say it's going to be September. So the next race is going to be September 14th. Yep, late models are racing September 14th. So go to Race On, which is the streaming service that we use here, and grab yourself a night of racing here and watch Landon go out there and battle it out with the guys in the late model class. So first night solo, it is a little bit different. I hope you guys learned a little bit of something about self-defense. We did talk Harley Davidsons and some motorcycles. Take it from me, I want to say I'm still a beginner, but look into it, and if that's something you want to do. Rocco don't have a railroad track attached to his spine, but yeah, I got you one day, huh? And that's the thing, right? You're correct, man. Mike, you do have some stuff going on with you, and it's sad. It's unfortunate, you know. And if we can live vicariously, or if you can live vicariously through us, but um, you know, never say never, right? Never say never. And if you can get in a car, like if you can ride in a car, and you've never ridden in a slingshot, outside of a motorcycle and a roller coaster, slingshot is the most fun on the road, man. So if you want to feel the wind in your hair again and get that therapy, go rent a slingshot for a day and go cruise around. They've got automatics now, so you don't have to worry about shifting if you didn't want to. A lot of fun, and we'll be having some video from our event so you guys can see the slingshots and what we have going on. So anyway, again, Gearheads and Guardians at gmail.com. And we always say this every podcast. If you're going to hurt yourself, if you have thoughts of hurting yourself, if you have things going on in your mind, we talked about it, you know, with the great Scott Bloomquist, and so many veterans and other people that have things going on that they feel like they just can't handle. Reach out and talk to somebody. Dial 988. Email us here at Gearheads and Guardians, or relieffortroops@info.com, or info@relieffortroops.com. Excuse me. Please, there is help. There's people that will listen. If you're prior military and you need to talk, please. I just let you know, I am a cancer patient. I don't talk about it a lot, except for when we're talking about ultrasound. But I had a coworker come up to me today and say, "Hey, man, I wanted to talk to you because I just found out that it's looking like I have this type of leukemia, and I wanted to talk with you." And I said, "My phone's open. You know, you have my phone number, you have my email. I'm here at work with you. There's always someone to listen. And if you don't feel like someone will listen, when it comes to like going to therapy and stuff like that, as I don't dog on that, find someone that's been through what you're going through and let them help you." Right? This is what we're here for. The brotherhood never stops. So, Rocco, when you log back in, or if you're still there, we'll see you tomorrow. I'll give you a call. Everybody else, thank you for joining me tonight. My first solo. Go to the like, subscribe, go to the comments. Tell me how horrible it was. Tell me how good it was. Tell me what I can do different. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. Again, as always, stay safe, shoot straight, keep the shiny side up, and we will talk to you next week on Gearheads and Guardians. Have a good night.